honestly, still to this day, it feels like a dream. Like the things that I'm doing, I'm so incredibly thankful.
You literally get to pass to Alyssa Thompson.
Oh my gosh, I know. And like Sydney LaRue is my friend. And I'm like, what is my life?
Macey Hodge, Angel City midfielder of the year out of Mississippi State, a person who fell in love with the game that almost got away from her. Welcome to the Indivisa show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So excited to have you on the show today. I know why you fell out of love with soccer, but I want to go to what made you fall in love with soccer.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been playing like essentially my entire life. And interestingly enough, like when I think about when I was little, I hated it. So
really?
I remember as a kid, I didn't really enjoy it. It was more, I was in like dance, soccer, like t-ball. And I didn't really love soccer, but I remember, this is like one of my earliest memories, was me being like, well, I don't want to do this. And my mom was like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, like, you're just going to have to tell your coach yourself that you're going to quit. And I was...
Oh, she put that on you at a young age. Wow.
I was like so shy. So I was like, I actually am not going to quit anymore. And so, I mean, I'm glad that I did it. I think I just like started to make really, really good friends. And I think like the community around football is kind of like what brings joy to my heart. I think even after my break, I think I fell back in love with it when I met my best friends at Mississippi State. It almost gave me a sense of like purpose and belonging and like fulfillment. I think what really like brought the love out was just the people that I was surrounded by. Yeah. And so like that sense of just community and is super important to me. And I think like what is like really important about football in general.
I mean, I'm so glad that you had that community. And one part that's so compelling about your story is that you're on Angel City. You have a professional contract, right? You're at essentially the highest level of the game here, but it all could have not been this way. What happened in senior year that kind of changed everything for you?
Growing up, soccer was my everything, and it was a great outlet for me, but it was also like a lot of pressure on my shoulders at the same time. And I think that I was in a great headspace like my freshman, sophomore year of high school, and I was in a healthy relationship with it. Then as I would say like my junior year, I started to like kind of like really get super serious about soccer. I was always serious about it, but you know, like you're like, okay, I'm going to go to college soon. Like I really need to focus. Like, what do I want to achieve? And I think there were a lot of things that kind of like led to that resentment of it. I think first and foremost was just like me comparing myself to other people. Yeah. And it was like, well, I'm doing this, but she's doing this. And so I think she's better than me. And it was just this constant like degrading of myself. And then also just like externally off the field, it was like family issues, like almost my world outside of soccer was like crumbling, I felt. And then honestly, like I just didn't really like know who I was or even like myself. I had no clue who Macey Hodge was without soccer. Yeah. So it was kind of like, okay, I'm not happy with myself. I feel like I have no outlet in terms of family life and like nobody to lean on. And then it's like I go to soccer and anything that I do isn't good enough because I feel like she's doing better than me. And so it was kind of like this just cycle of like, if I thought I was playing well, like I was on top of the world. And if I wasn't, like, I literally like just didn't care about myself. And so it got to the point where I was just so exhausted. So like spring of 2019, I was supposed to graduate and then go to Vandy and this high school soccer season. I mean, I love my high school coach and he knew like I was going through some stuff, but like sometimes I wouldn't show up to practices because I was so drained and I was like, this is so draining for me to even be a part of. It got to the point where I was like, I genuinely want nothing to do with it. And stepping away was obviously like the hardest thing I've ever done. I think for myself, but also I felt like I was letting so many people down in the process, you know, that like poured into me.
What were like the conversations that you were having with yourself at this time? Or like, were you talking to anybody else?
I think I tried to hide it from everybody and myself until I couldn't anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it was one of those things I was like, I know this is a problem, but I'm not going to think about it. And so like I created a distance between it. So I think essentially I never really examined it, honestly, until I stepped away. So looking back, I felt in that moment that my decision was super irrational to quit. But when you reflect on it, like there was obviously this build up and this lead up to it that was inevitable, it was going to happen. In that sense, I think I just like let it fester until I couldn't anymore. And it was almost like, I'm holding this in. And it was just like this explosion. And I remember like telling my mom and my stepdad, look, I know that I have all this lined up, but I don't want to do it anymore. And I think you can imagine how, they might have reacted. So at first, like that definitely wasn't a positive reaction from them, which totally I understand. And like from even like some of my other family friends and stuff, they're like, you're making a huge mistake. And I was like, you know what, maybe I am, but it's mine to make.
And good on you for being able to make a decision, because like if you hadn't done that, who knows where you would be now, or if you would have ever found that love again.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like resented soccer for a while.
Yeah.
Like that whole calendar year, like I was like, I want nothing to do with it. And like a bunch of my teammates transitioned into their college season, and I was like, it was like in this weird spot because it's like, I want to support you, but like, I really don't, because I like.
So what were you doing? Like, what were you doing during this time? Were you just like scrolling like through your phone, like avoiding like their highlights, the commit photos, like all that stuff?
The first 2 months, I like quit on whatever journey I was on at that time. I honestly was like really, really happy because I was like, okay, I have no pressure, like no expectation to be anything. Like I can be whatever I want to be. I think I just enjoyed like the quick fix of, okay, like no responsibilities now. But then I was like, oh, actually, I guess I do have to figure out my life if I'm not going to play soccer anymore. And so I got a job like at Kroger being a cashier. And then I went to West Georgia, which is like a small college near my house, went to work and walked my dogs. And then eventually, I would say like midway through the year, I was like, okay, I sit here and I say like I quit because I was so unhappy with myself and my life. Then it's my responsibility to do something about it, essentially. So that's when I really got into like therapy and like really talking about it, which is not something that I wanted to do at first because I was so avoidant about the issue, which is now like why I love to talk about it so much, because there was a point in my life where like I couldn't express my emotions and I felt like it was weird to talk about it, and I hated being vulnerable with others.
And who would you say was Macey outside of soccer then? And now being in soccer, who would you say that you are?
Yeah, I think that right when I quit, I had no sense of self. I had no hobbies. I didn't know what I liked. I didn't know what I didn't like, because my identity was solely like ingrained in this idea of like Macey, the football player, which was like awesome until it wasn't. So I adopted a little dog, Blue, became obsessed with him, like obviously got really big into therapy, and then just like making friends outside of soccer, because I felt like my whole world was like, okay, I have my soccer friends like on my club team, and then I have my soccer friends at school. And like honestly, when I worked at Kroger, some of like my closest friends were like older ladies that were
that's awesome. We're like, let's go stack the cans together, bag these bags.
Kids, like I'm like, I love these ladies. And so honestly, I think what I enjoyed the most about it was just like the disconnect and kind of just exploring what I liked and what I didn't without any pressure to be anybody or like do anything specific, because at this point it was kind of like I really stepped away from what my entire life was. So
I mean, I can't even imagine when you're injured, right? You're away from the game at a certain capacity, but it sounds like you very much mentally, physically, like everything, just checked yourself out of the sport. How did you even like come back to it? It's like you just like picked up right where you left off, which doesn't happen. Like,
yeah, it was honestly probably like one of the toughest transitions of my life. Not even just like physically, but mentally too. I'd never like lived away from home, going into a completely new space where zero people, and it's just like, okay, here you are. And so I remember I had a close friend, and this was around November 2019. She played soccer at Florida, and I was like, you know what, like we're best friends growing up. I need to come support you and like watch one of your games. And so I went down to Gainesville for a couple days. I remember I caught a training session and a match on the drive back. It was like one of those drives where you're like contemplating your whole life. So I had like no music on. It was like a 5-hour drive where I'm like, oh my God.
You're like, maybe I'll see a gator. Maybe something will happen.
Exactly.
As a host, I need my skin to stay fresh from the first take to the final wrap. And with my e.l.f. Cosmetics new Halo Glow Skin Tint, I get a natural dewy finish that keeps me glowing all day long. No fixing, no fading, just camera-ready confidence from e.l.f. Cosmetics.
So I'm like, oh my God, I wish that I would have just tried. And that's when it kind of sparked. I was like, is this something I'm going to regret for the rest of my life? Just walking away and never giving it a shot. But I was like, let me put my ego aside and just call my club coach. So I called him up. I was like, crazy idea. Hey, we kind of chatted about it, and he's like, we can reach out to who you were talking to before, but I could probably assure you that nobody's going to give you money or anything. And I'm like, you know what? That's fine. I just want to get a shot. And so Nick, James, and Brian, who were the coaches in Mississippi State at the time, they called me and they were like, look, we'll take a chance on you. They're like, but you had to take a chance on us, because they were just new at the time. And they were like, we know that we don't have a great program right now. We're trying to change that. So it was almost like a gamble on both ends. And it just ended up kind of working out perfectly. And I definitely believe, reflecting, that everything happened as it should have. So it always gives me goosebumps, because it's just so cool to see how something one of the worst memories of my life turned into one of the best parts of my life and led me to where I am now.
And did you get injured at Mississippi State?
Yeah, so I fractured my L5. I was at the SEC tournament, and long story short, I thought I broke my hip. I was like, oh my gosh, something is terribly wrong. And then they were like, you didn't break your hip, but you did break your back. And I was like, perfect.
You're like, that's not better, but thank you.
I was like, okay. That was the year that I originally wanted to be done with college and transition into the NWSL, hopefully. So I remember being so disappointed and being like, why would this happen? Your mind is kind of already halfway out the door, being like, what's my next move and what's my next step? And then this happens. And so it's like, but then again, reflecting, I feel like everything happens for a reason, because the last year that we had was absolutely insane from a program standpoint, individual standpoint. My favorite part of it isn't even the accolades or anything. It genuinely was the group. It was the sweetest, most precious group I've ever been a part of.
That's awesome. I mean, with your injury, I feel like it would have been really easy for you just to sort of write yourself off again, right? And just sort of be like, all right, this is the second time this feeling has come about where I'm like, I don't know what's next. What did you say, or what did somebody say to you that made you want to stick in the Elephant game?
I was super close with my coaches. And so I was really honest with James, and I was kind of like, I don't know why this would happen to me, and mad at the world almost. And I remember him saying something along the lines of you have given so much to this program, from a collective standpoint for the past 4 years. You can take a few months to just worry about Macey and get healthy. When I was there, it was always a group mindset, how do I keep the group together? Everything that I thought about was to take care of the group. And sometimes that was at the expense of myself and kind of my mental well-being. So I think him telling me that it was just okay to worry about me for a second, and however long it took me to, rehabilitate was going to be okay. And in that time, all I needed to worry about was myself. And so I think that really kind of resonated with me and kind of took some weight off my shoulders.
Sure. It sounds like your why is the people around you.
Yeah,
and,
100%. Yeah.
It's so interesting that you have to step away from that to realize that's what you love the most about the sport.
For sure.
And so now you're with a new family, right? Angel City. You had an amazing graduate season. You won all the awards, right? You could not open, what was it, Top Drawer Soccer? What was the college one without reading your name. How did Angel City find you? How did it feel like it was the right fit? Could you even imagine little you going on and playing pro now?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, still to this day, it feels like a dream. The things that I'm doing, I'm so incredibly thankful.
You literally get to pass to Alyssa Thompson.
Oh my gosh, I know. And Sydney LaRue is my friend. And what is my life?
You and Riley Tiernan are
exactly
each other.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, honestly, even if you would have told me 7-8 months ago that this was my life, I would have like been like, pinch me. I think I'm just extremely grateful for it all. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm really speechless. And so I think on like the harder days, because obviously it is such a tough profession to be in and like very mentally challenging, but at the root of it all, I remember like, oh my gosh, like little Macey would be over the moon right now. So I think that keeps me super grounded. And yeah, like you said, I mean, I'm surrounded by some of like the best footballers in the world, and that's something that I don't take lightly. And it's awesome to be able to learn from these people, not only soccer wise, but just like the emotional aspect of the game and stuff like that. Being surrounded by like my childhood idols like Kristen and Sid is just one of the most rewarding things that I've ever done.
Have you had any moments yet, and it might still just be too early on, where you're having sort of like a tough day at practice, or you're kind of feeling alone? Have you been able to turn to any of your teammates?
Yeah, I think the transition in is like extremely hard just because everything's competitive and it's just a completely different way of life. Like transitioning from Starkville, Mississippi to LA in itself is
working in a grocery store. Yeah. You're like, I miss my like old friends.
Exactly, you get it. So I think that the older players really know and can sense when something's off. So there's definitely been times where like some of the older leaders will come up to me and be like, hey, is like everything okay? And so that's super comforting. And then my like best friend here is Riley, and we didn't know each other prior to like 5 months ago. And now if you see me, you're probably going to see her. And so
that's awesome. Yeah.
It's kind of like leaning on each other in tough days has been really, really good for us. I'm just so thankful that we're here at the same time, and it's so much fun.
Have you felt more and more comfortable like using your voice, like advocating for sort of like mental health and therapy? And
yeah, I think it's like so awesome. And you know, you get here and you're kind of like starstruck, and then I like play in the games, and then I have like fans calling my name after, and I'm like, wait, like this, you guys care about me too? So I think after a couple games, I was like, wow, like, okay, I'm kind of here. Like, why not make the most of my platform? So I'm obviously super passionate about mental health and kind of like getting my story out there. And the most important thing that I want to share, especially to younger athletes, is that like your journey is your own. And so if you would have looked at my journey and how it went, you can obviously see that you can end up here in a non-traditional way. So comparison, I truly believe, is a thief of joy. And throughout your childhood, you just need to be enjoying the game and trying to elevate yourself rather than focusing on somebody else's journey, and it'll all work out as it should.
Do people ever say like, oh, she quit? And like, how do you respond to those comments? Because you quit, but you made a comeback, and you didn't fully walk away from the game. Like, have you had to respond to like any of those comments?
Honestly, no. I think like a lot of like the commentators and stuff talk about it like, oh, she quit, and then they'll always talk about, oh, she worked at Kroger. I'm like, guys, you could have left that out.
But giving Kroger like the publicity it needs.
I know. I'm like, okay. But if anything, any of like the kind of like talk around it has been super positive, which is like awesome to see. And then also now with like the NWSL having like mental health leave and stuff, I think is really cool. So I think it's becoming more of like a topic of conversation because it is like a real thing that needs to be taken care of.
Absolutely. Was there, I mean, I know you said comparison is a thief of joy, but was there a quote or something that you live by or that you feel like has really helped you? I mean, I know you have a lot of tattoos. Like, do you have any quotes that are just like on your body that you feel like really sort of encompass who you are?
I don't have this tattooed yet, but this is my next one. I want to get divine timing. And this is like something that I write down before every game, and just like trying to remind myself that everything is going to work out the way that it should, and just keep doing exactly what I'm doing. And whether, you know, it happens today or tomorrow or even in a couple months, like it'll happen all as it should. So that's been like my mantra for years now. And I'm surprised it hasn't become a tattoo yet, but this is my next one. Mark my words.
It's going to be divine timing whenever that tattoo happens.
Exactly.
You know, I'm sure you have little girls that like run up to you after the games and want your autograph. What would you say to one of them that is like, I don't think I like soccer anymore? What should I do? I
would say, like, especially as a little kid, I think get involved in as many sports as you can. Like, if you don't like soccer, okay, maybe you'll like basketball, maybe you'll like tennis. And then eventually, if you're supposed to make your way back to it, then you will. I mean, there's something out there for you. And even if it isn't sports, that's okay. Like my sisters, both of them, not sporty girls. We live great lives.
Amazing. Okay, so what are your social handles for everyone to find you?
My Instagram is at Macey Hodge. And then I think my Twitter is like Hodge_Macey. TikTok, I think it's Money Mace 40.
Nice.
Yeah.